In episode 19, Josh and Trevor discuss their recent trip to the Washington State SummerCon. Andy explores some Luke thoughts. We appreciate a unique collection and give a thoughtful collector tip. The Force runs strong with this pod. Pass on what you're about to learn.
You tuned in to the Holochronicles.
Good morning or good afternoon or good evening. Thank you for listening to the Holochronicles podcast. You can find us at Holochronicles on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, or whatever major podcast platform you prefer. Josh.
Andy, what's happening?
Not much. We have a guest.
We don't have a guest. We just have him remoted in.
This is new for us.
Yeah, we're giving it a shot. We got OG BMB Trev on the line. Trev, what's happening?
Hey boys, can you guys hear me through there?
Come in, Trevor.
You're clicking out, but hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you just fine.
Hear you.
Good stuff. So I can stop yelling.
Yes, please stop yelling. Let's get right into it.
Yes, sir.
Star Wars news.
Woo! So the news of the day for this group of, I was going to say young men. We're still young men, right?
Sure. Depends on, hey, how old was, like 600 was Chewbacca, so we're good.
Oh, yeah. He was 190. At least in Solo.
Sorry, was I thinking Yoda? I don't know.
900 for Yoda.
Or Moses.
Somewhere in between. I mean, we're young in the grand scheme of things.
Sure.
Young at heart anyway. The news for us, actually for you and Trevor, are that you recently went to the 2019 Washington State SummerCon in Puyallup. Was that in Puyallup, Washington?
Yeah, just south of Seattle.
So you guys got to go do this. I had intended to go, but ended up not being able to because of things like wife's birthday and son's baseball tournament.
Come on. Priorities, man.
I know. I gotta get straightened out. But you guys did send me some pictures, and we had conversations afterwards about it, and it sounded like it was a blast.
It really was. I'll start off, but we definitely have Trev was with me. We took Trev's boy, me, and I actually took my brother, who's a fan of the pod. My brother
Shout
Sam.
out to the Spoon.
The Spoono. And his boy, which is great because he's anything, you got lightsabers or laser guns or whatever, he's all in. And we motorcaded up. There it is, laser sword. And it was really great. When we looked at the cast or the list of guests, so to speak, it was a little impressive. For one, well, for one, we had Tamira Morrison was there. I always say his first name wrong, but anyway, Jango Fett.
Among other things. He's been in quite a few movies.
Well, Jango Fett.
But for our purposes,
Jango Fett.
He is the original clone. He's also Rex and Cody.
He's every clone you've ever seen. I mean, this guy's everywhere. He's probably the most prominent figure in Star Wars, like the most repetitive character.
That was funny that you repeated.
I just cloned that saying 3 times.
It's a
and obviously, it was very Star Wars centric. It's a Comic-Con, but Star Wars is the
big draw. Was it the biggest draw there?
It was definitely Trev, would you agree? Was that the biggest draw there?
With Jango? You think
I'm
Jango
saying Star
was
Wars in general as a
topic? Absolutely. They had a full setup of it. Yes.
Yeah, they had a Star Wars experience, which was so. Anyway, we get ahead of ourselves, but back to the guests that of note for us. There and then Carl Weathers was there, which is Apollo Creed. For Pete's sakes, and we'll get into that here in a minute. I think we'll break it down, and then of course the premiere. The premier guest.
Reason the deal breaker as to why we should or should not go. Oh well,
yeah.
Billy D. Williams.
Billy D.
Yeah,
Billy D. was there in all his glory. It was so fantastic to
can't go wrong.
Live. I posted some pictures up actually this evening prior to the pod
on Instagram,
and linked them over to Twitter. So it just, I don't want to go. We'll just talk about it, but I will say that there are these guys doing their job are just so awesome. They're great people. I've got my own story, but Trevor, why don't you tell me what your initial experience or thought was going to this con, Washington, the SummerCon, so to speak?
Well, I got to say, initially I thought it would be kind of the standard con where you'd go to different booths. You'd look at different, collectibles and things like that, drawings and different artists, some different authors, stuff like that. But when we got there, it was just, there was something, it was good. It was really good. I really liked the fact that not only did they implement the celebrities, which were awesome. Each one of the experiences with each one of them was great. But the fact that we could kind of go around, interact with everybody, and then go and talk to the celebrities. I don't know if you want me to tell you the whole story about my interaction with each, but man, they made it better than I expected. Meaning that,
Trev, just share, like, for me, when you and I talked afterwards, you were sharing what your experience was. You said your interaction with Tamira Morrison was like you couldn't have asked for it to go any better. So go ahead, share that. So
a little bit about that. We went in and kind of the group kind of got separated because we had different things that we were going to. I went in and I said, okay, I'll try and go and get in line and get in line for Django, Tamara. So I got in line, and while I was there, I was right up front, kind of in the line. There was a lot of people there, but I was in front. So I texted a couple pictures to Josh and said, hey, he's here, hurry up, Josh had other stuff he had to run back, but either way, I was sitting there, and while I was watching him interact with other people, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get my photos. I got to get my, I had a couple things that I wanted signed. First off, what they do is you pay for a signature with the guy.
For each signature, right?
One signature,
each signature, yeah. Like you pay and say, hey, I want to pay this amount, and I want a signature of him on a photo that they provide. And so I went up. I was trying to find a Black Series figure to get signed by him. Like, I was really searching. I tried on eBay beforehand, couldn't get it delivered in time. It got to a point where I was like, okay, I want to find something that's Django, and try and get it signed. So I searched around. I was like, hey, Josh, you're busy. I'm going to take that few minutes. I'm going to look around. Went through back down the aisles, kind of searching and going back and forth, and couldn't find anything other than this artist that I really liked. And I wish I knew his name, but it's I don't have it right now. But
artist too, and I don't know his name either. But he had some really good stuff.
We have to tag him later.
Yeah,
like Portland
Seattle artist, and
we have to tag him later. He was great
too, by the way.
Oh,
I know.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But he and I'll just elaborate on what Trevor's saying about the artist, and I didn't buy any of his art, but Trevor, almost because Trevor was in. So I was like, yeah, I like that. I want, we like to almost have unique collections as well, where I want to go to Trevor's house and see his cool art because I don't have any. But this guy had these really good, like, sketches is what I would call them. Very powerful, very, kind of frisky, just out of this world.
So you were able to find a Django piece of art from this dude?
Yeah. So again, we searched through kind of throughout the day. We got there early, searched around, went through kind of each aisle, and this guy I personally honed in on because I like this kind of art. It's original, it's drawn, it's pencil, it's on
the kind
paper.
Of art that you like to do.
Yes, I really liked it, and I talked to him about it, and I said, I bought a couple of pictures already, and basically asked him, hey, can you hold these for me? Anyway, then this came around where I was with Tamura and trying to find out, like, hey, can I find a Django, either a Black Series was ideal or a picture. So I went searching around, couldn't find anything, went back to him and said, hey, do you happen to have a Django? And he said, hey, you know what? I just drew one today. Here you go. And it was pretty expensive. And I said, well, you know what? I don't. I appreciate it, but I just don't have that much money. Well, my son stepped up and said, hey, I have this money that you wanted to get me a souvenir. He said, hey, just take this. So Gavin gave me that money. It was a cool experience
because you got to do it father and son. That is cool. That's really cool.
Cool. It was cool. It was a good experience. Gavin stepped up.
So then did you have to pay extra to have him sign that?
So I purchased the the drawing. Then I went back to Django, and I was still waiting for Josh. So I'm like, okay, I've got this. I went up to the lady there that's kind of like kind of
the handler.
Yeah, the handler, exactly. Talked to her and said, hey, I want to get an autograph from him. They had some really cool Django like photos of him in the actual glossies. Scene. Yeah, they're great. They're cool. So I picked one of those and said, well, I want this one autographed for sure. I'm going to go with this one. She says, you can only have one autographed. He will only autograph one. I said, okay, that's fine. I get it. I know how it works. So I get that. I went to him and offered that photo, the pre-made photo, and started talking to him. And the thing about him was that, like, when you go to shake somebody's hand, instead of like shaking his hand like somebody you meet, it was like a bro handshake, like where
he brought you in.
You're locking.
He flipped it around a little bit.
Yeah, you're locking thumbs, and it was like, man, this guy is cool.
Now, careful.
Yeah,
There's been romantic Star Wars fan theory based on less than that.
Okay, I can say that there was no
locking thumbs.
There was no sparkle in either of our eyes, but he was just a cool guy. I mean, like down to earth, like the type of guy you'd be, have a drink with.
Love that New Zealand accent was.
Oh
awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. Just a cool guy. He started talking to me and my son, asking questions, where are you from, type of stuff. Why you, it was cool.
So one thing I remember telling you after we got done talking about this was that, like, man, it's so cool when your heroes are as cool as you want them to be, right? They're not jerks. They're not like, I mean, I understand that these conventions for these celebrity types and authors and such, it is part of their job. It's part of their income, and they could treat it as such. They're like, hey, I'm here to work, and that would be totally fine and acceptable.
Right. Yeah.
But when they surpass your expectations, like when you go in just thinking like, okay, they're here, this is their job, we're not going to expect a whole lot of interacting, but then they go the extra mile to, like you said, he asked questions to you and Gavin, and so it was like interactive, and it just set the experience over the top. And you could tell when I was talking to you, you could tell how pumped you were that it went way better than you could have imagined.
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, but it wasn't even, it was an experience. Like, I feel like so not only did we shake hands, do all that stuff, but he was signing the autograph, or the autograph to the photo that they had. I was holding this other photo that I purchased in my hand, and I was like, I was holding it kind of back, and he said, well, what's that? And I said, well, no, don't worry about that. I didn't pay for this photo. It's I didn't pay for the autograph. It's no worries, but thank you. And he said, well, no, just give it to me. Just don't tell anybody. So he grabs it from me, opens it up out of the sleeve it was in, and starts signing it. He's like, just don't tell them over there. And he starts signing it. And it was such a cool experience, not only for me, but I looked at my son, and he was just ear to ear, smiling, enjoying the situation. And it was just like, what a cool experience.
That is cool.
And it's not even the money part of it. It was just the fact that he made that entire con.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Because when we left, I think Trevor was glowing about Tamira. He was just like, that guy was so cool.
Was he even touching the ground when he was walking?
Well,
I got just kind of hovering.
He is kind of short. He wasn't touching the ground when he was sitting in the chair. I'll tell you that much. But
well, and not even that. But I'll tell you this: I wasn't a huge Django fan prior to this. I wasn't, but I am now. Like, he made me like not just the character, which was already amazing and cool, but he made me think, okay, this whole experience and the person who created this character is that cool. Like, it was just a cool experience.
So do you want to go see all the movies that he starred in now?
Well, no, I think absolutely, because I do. I agree with that.
Wasn't he in couples therapy?
Yeah, there's one where he's wearing a beanie cap. That was what I was like, is that I don't know. I unfortunately, I have not watched all of his films, but that's a good point. I'll add to this a little bit is that while Trev was in line, I was running around and actually happened to find a Black Series Django.
Oh, let me tell that real quick. I want to tell that story because this was pretty epic for me in two different ways. One, I'm texting back and forth with Josh like, hey, hurry up, get over here. He's signing these two different autographs for me, and while that happens, I'm texting back. I look at my phone when we're done, completely done with him, and I look at my phone, and Josh says, "Hey, I found you a Black Series Django to get signed," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's so awesome." Well, I tried to. Yeah, I'm good.
He's choking up over it. I get it.
I tried to text Josh and say,
Getting
"Well,
emotional.
I'm already done," but Josh said, "Hey, I got it already," which was really cool already. Josh was like, "Hey, I got this for you. I'm bringing it to you." So Josh is running this over to me while I'm already done, and then Josh shows up, and I'll let you finish from there, Josh.
Yeah, so I show up, and Trev's like, man, I got this sign, and he's already jacked up, and I'm like, oh, man, that's awesome. He's like, this guy's the coolest. He's like, and then, of course, I'm Mr. Rule follower. I'm like, well, they only pay for one signature. He's like, yeah, I know, but check this out. Just walk up and just ask him, and he'll do it. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be that guy, but okay. And so I get in line. Of course, the handler, same gal Trev dealt with, was like one signature. And I'm like, I get it. And then I grab the Django picture, which is awesome. So I'm fine with it. I've got my own personal Black Series Django, which I brought with me from home. And I walk up and I kind of pull it out of my bag, but I throw down the picture and he's like, hey, mate, how's it going? And he signs it and he's like, oh, what do you got there? And I'm like, yeah, no. And he signs that for you. He's like, yeah, no problem. He signs that for me. And I'm like, thank you so much. And actually, we happened to be pretty lucky because we were the last ones in line before he went to lunch.
Right before lunch.
Exactly. So he was kind of like super relaxed, cool, but knew he was getting out of there. They actually turned away someone behind me. So it was like, wow. And then I turned to Trev and I grabbed his Black Series. I'm like, or I think I did. I don't know if I did or Trev did. I'm like, hey, can you sign? He's like, no problem. And he signs that.
And so you guys got a bunch of freebies. We got like 6 signatures out of this guy for the price of 2. And then he stood there and talked. And like Trevor said, he was very personable. Shook my hand, took a picture with me. I mean, all these things are extra on top of what we paid for. And he was the coolest guy. So like I was saying, I don't want to go too long on this one, celebrity, but I think he made the con for us. Cause after that it was like, it's fine. Cause he was our first signature. And I think most people have that experience. Now, what I would say, especially with him for sure, because he's just a cool dude. And he was kind of arranging stuff and I had to like interrupt him. And Trevor's like, no, go talk to him. And I'm like, just wait for him to finish talking. And then and that's when I got my picture with him. And he was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And he turned around because we weren't a burden, which is how I feel maybe a celebrity might act or could or should act, given rabid fans who might want to just take their signature and sell it, which of course we don't want to do. Right. Well, and some people might see that opportunity. Oh, he signed another. Well, if you give an inch, they'll take a mile.
Exactly. And that's what the handlers should be doing, is like controlling the crowd.
Right. But if you guys didn't do that and you guys had a great experience and that doesn't even, that was, like you said, it was your first one. And then you had 2 more biggies to get after that.
We had 2 biggies. I'll give almost the same story because my personal experience, which is very similar to Trevor's, because he had that cool, like figured it out and then was able to pass it on to me with Tamara. But Carl Weathers. Carl Weathers was
Cool dude, Creed, man. Cool dude.
Predator.
Oh my gosh. Just so cool. And we stood in line and I was starstruck by him. I literally was.
Well, and dude, look how slick he looked.
Oh,
he looked like he was straight up.
He looks as good as he did 20 years ago.
He looked like Apollo Creed, man. He was in it.
Let me interject just in case somebody's listening that doesn't know, Carl Weathers is expected to have a role in The Mandalorian.
So
that's the connection. Not only is he a Rocky mainstay, and he was in Predator.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's been in a bunch of stuff.
So I don't want
to Happy Gilmore.
Just the greatest. So we get in line, and again, the line is short. I will put this in really quick. This con, and I hate to say it because I hope it got better. This con didn't have a lot of people there. We had almost free reign. It wasn't, aisle to aisle packed. We walked down freely. And then when we got in line for our specific, like autographs, which were for me, Tamira and Carl Weathers, and then our next guy, it was really quick. So I again got in line.
Surprisingly quick.
Yeah, got in line and we both walk up, and Trevor is kicking himself because he didn't get a Carl Weathers autograph, but he ended up being able to buy one, which is awesome. And so we're both in line. And
but real quick though, do you remember when we first showed up, like in the early morning, there were people like lined up, they were lined up for each one of these guys. They were kind of piling up, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, we're never going to make it in."
Yeah, it's going to be a long
day. And then we
day.
waited. We went to lunch, kind of did a bunch of other stuff, and then came back, and it turned out perfect. So
it did. And so Carl, I'm watching him interact with the people in front of us, and the guy in front of me before I go is like, "Hey, I got to be honest with you. Happy Gilmore is my favorite movie." He's like,
right,
"How great was it to be in that movie?" And as a celebrity, you could be like, "Come on, man, I was in Predator," I was Apollo Creed,
Yeah.
And he goes, "That movie was so much fun to make." He says, "That is a great movie. It still stands up." And I'm like, "This is awesome." And eye contact, like he's signing, but he stops what he's doing. He looks up and he has a conversation with this guy. And this guy kind of loses it a little bit. His voice gets shaky. He's like, "Ooh,"
it goes up an octave or two.
Yeah, it does. And so he's like, "Well, thank you very much." It takes and then I walk up and I'm like, "Wow, this guy's awesome." And then Trev's next to me with his boy, who's about 12. And Carl's like, again, just interacting and being awesome. And then he's signing, and then he looks up and he looks at Gavin, because Gavin's a little, Trevor's son is a little, I think he's starstruck because he's kind of looking over at the pictures of Apollo Creed.
He gets a little nervous.
He's looking over at Predator. This guy, in Predator, that guy was jacked. I mean, he's jacked in the 80s. He's jacked. He's holding an Uzi. And he's looking back at Carl, and he's looking back at the pictures, and he's looking at Carl, and Carl just looks up.
To give him credit, though, he is still...
No, he's still in great shape.
He is a specimen. That dude is insane how fit he is.
So
still.
Carl looks up, and he looks right at Gavin, and he's like, "Hey, man, why aren't you smiling?" And Gavin goes, like, this fake, like, on command, like, gives him the smile. He's like, "Aren't you having fun, man?" And it was so cool. And, of course, I made a joke about his hand growing back from the Happy Gilmore experience, and all this stuff. And he just signed. I don't know. I just want to say I can't give enough credit to... And I don't know where we got the bad celebrity rap. It's almost like the bad French rap.
Not at all.
These guys are super cool.
They were gracious.
And they were so gracious. And they would talk to their fans. They give them a minute. I mean, not even a minute. If you think 30 seconds of somebody's time who like I talked to Carl. I had a conversation. I said, I locked down Carl and I said, hey.
You did.
I
you asked him some questions.
I called him Carl. I was like,
it
Carl.
was pretty good.
I said, Carl.
It was pretty good. I got photos of it.
I said, "Hey, tell me about the Mandalorian." I said, look, just me and you. You tell me one thing. And he again stops right and sits down the pen, looks at me in the eyes. He's like, "I got to tell you, man, this thing is big."
This is big.
I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I ain't never seen anything this big. This is a big deal and a lot of effort." And he gave the canned answer, but it was cool to have that from Carl Weathers. I'm like, I was hoping maybe he'd be like, look, listen. But he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Well, not only that, but
come here.
When you said, "Hey, give me a little insight into the Mandalorian," I got to give you credit. You were not starstruck
I was
enough.
Rocky Balboa. That's what I was. I was not
You were
afraid.
you were able to converse with him in a comedic way, but I mean, he started talking about, "Hey, my name's," what do you say, Grief Karga? Is that his name?
Yeah, Grief is his name in that. Grief is all I remember because I thought that was kind of a really cool name, Grief. So, but he was like, it's the biggest thing
info.
I've ever been a part. It was very cool. So
it was cool. It was amazing.
Then to keep it moving here, the third autograph that you guys got. I mean,
it was a small
I know
one. It wasn't a big deal.
I know you guys got Timothy Zahn, and I have an appreciation for him.
I go off on that.
And he looked like a good dude from the pictures. You took some pictures with him.
He was a way good dude.
And
yes, he was.
But I got to hear about my guy. My dog is named Lando for this reason. For this guy. What was Billy D like?
I'll add to this, and Trev, you give your own take, because here's the deal. The deal with Billy was it was a photo op, and as a matter of fact, if you read all the breakdown, it was like, look, this isn't a meet and greet, this isn't an autograph signing, it's a get in line and get a picture. However, you can't walk up to Lando Calrissian and not just give him like a hello. So
what have we here?
And of course, Billy's getting on in years.
He's 80 years old.
He walked in, and I think Trev and I started the clap. We're like, woo! We gave the clap, and the whole crowd clapped as he walked by to get behind the curtain.
Nobody else. I
think everyone didn't know. Nobody else. We had head on a swivel there, and we're like, there he is. And we're like, yeah! And we started clapping.
We started the clap, and we started clapping for.
It wasn't even a slow clap. We went right in. Okay?
Oh yeah, we went from straight 0 up fanning
to 11.
We were screaming. We ran up to him. We took our shirts off.
Yeah, no, we didn't do any of that.
Chest bump.
Chest bumped an 85-year-old man.
No, but my comment to you guys is that, I mean, his hair slicked back. He's got this beautiful scarf on and this nice white shirt, and he looked like he smelled great.
He did.
Like rich.
Yeah, that was one of the.
Mr. Glover still didn't have anything on him. I mean, I gotta say
that was one of the first comments I got when talking to Andy about this was, "Hey, how did he smell?" So apparently he looked like he smelled great.
A mining colony, yeah. And Leia,
and he did. He was a very well put together.
No, he's a good guy. Dude. And I got to say, "Hey, Billy, how's it going?" And he was just like, "Good, man." And then I just said, "Thank you. I really, I appreciate you." And he's like, "I appreciate you." That's all the time you had. But I mean, the ultimate thing being, you're standing next to Lando. You're standing next to an icon of what we love. And as brief as it was an experience. I got a great picture to prove it. So does Trev, and there we go. So, but overall, Trevor, if we were to bring this in for a landing, I would say that the SummerCon more than exceeded our expectations. Like far, I agreed to this 6 months before, and I was like, it's a bit of a drive. It's not that long.
Yes.
But, I was like, and I had like 20 things. One being one of my daughter's events, and I'm like, I already set this up, and then. I went there under a little bit of like duress, but when I got there, I was like, thank goodness I came here. So it was a great experience. I highly recommend.
So next year, you think I should miss my wife's birthday for it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No. Well, and just a quick note on that. We always have, it's tougher to get there than when you get there. It's like, oh my gosh, everything that happened, all the celebrities, there were some very good purchases that happened at this Comic-Con that were amazing. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but either way,
it's coming later.
Yeah, either way, there was some very cool stuff that you get involved in there. The celebrities, Billy D. The fact that I have a picture with me, my son, and Billy D. right now, with me doing the hang loose sign from Hawaii, and my son doing the peace sign and smiling, is something that will never go away. Yeah. It is always there.
And I am so appreciative for very long.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's not going to be around for too much
he's
longer.
In the next show. You got Carl Weathers, who's in The Mandalorian, who I almost missed out, but with Josh having the experience he had, I was like, no way, I have to get an autograph that is signed directly to me and Gavin, and it was just a fantastic, every bit of it, all the purchases, all the celebrities, fantastic experience. I cannot explain. Go to a con. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Right. Trevor, are you gonna stick around or?
Yeah, just go ahead. I'll listen to you guys.
Let's move on. SummerCon.
Show me your collection.
This week's collection, hashtag show me your collection, comes from a guy by the name of Todd, who we just met in the last week or so. And you can find him. He is part of the podcast that he calls it, or he, in his explanation to me, called it the NPR, but with Star Wars. It's at WSTR Media. WSTR Media. And his collection is a little bit different than what we've featured here on Saturdays past. And spoiler, we're going to feature him again this Saturday with more of a traditional collection. But his original picture that he sent me of his collection was of a tattoo that he has been getting for the last 6 years. He's been working on getting it worked on for quite a while, and it goes from wrist to shoulder, and it was just Empire Stormtrooper helmets, Empire helmets all the way from Stormtrooper. There was a Boba Fett in there as well, but all these different kinds of Empire helmets, Imperial helmets, I should say, and it was jam-packed, and they just looked beautiful.
Yeah, good artist did that.
Great artist. We tagged him, or he put it out there, and we shouted him out too. And man, it was fantastic. You could tell all the time and detail that was put into it. You know, when he said, "Yeah, this has taken me about 6 years to get," like, it didn't surprise me at all because it looked incredible. And for me, Josh, I don't speak, for all of us here, but you spend 6 years trying to gather and build upon something. That's a collection. That tattoo,
absolutely,
is definitely
it's a work of art.
It's a work of art, and it's a labor of love. You spent
Pain,
time,
blood,
money,
even blood.
Yeah, you put in a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears on that thing, and it was just fantastic. So Todd, I couldn't have been more impressed with a tattoo, and
that's WSTR Media, right?
Yes,
yeah. I listened to their
Media.
pod today.
The Yak
Check
Face
them
Pod.
out. Check them out.
Yak Face Pod.
I dug it. Yeah, yeah.
And then he followed it up, but I didn't want to post these. I wanted the tattoo to stand alone. It was impressive enough that it qualified by itself. But he also has Star Wars, more of a traditional Star Wars collection in the toys and figures and all that. And so I will post those up this Saturday, which upon recording this pod, it's Thursday evening. So in a couple days. And we've never featured somebody twice. No, we haven't. We haven't featured anybody twice yet.
No, but I think this is a special case because I don't think we've ever featured a body art as a collection.
Nope.
So I like your take on that as far as the investment it takes to get to that level of detail. I mean, it really is impressive. So good on Todd, and I like his product out there with the WSTR Media, which is awesome.
Side question, Josh.
Yeah.
Do you have a tattoo?
I don't.
Trevor, you still on?
Trev does. He's
Yep,
there,
I'm here. I have a tattoo, but it's of my kids' initials, basically.
Okay.
No Star Wars, not yet.
Is that
which
is that the
initials?
only one?
Is it L and S? Maybe I don't know. I mean, we could make anything happen out of those initials.
Is it a Raylo?
L and S isn't even my kids' initials, so that's
I know,
awkward.
but maybe you screwed up and you got a Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, no,
initial. I mean, it's the same.
There's
I'm
a
saying.
chance.
D
Yeah.
and
That's
V.
funny because I immediately went Leia Skywalker. That was in my head. Okay. All right. Just curious. We'll get a B&B tattoo.
Oh my God.
Well, we're going to go in, hold
maybe
hands,
that's a
get a
challenge.
B&B tattoo.
Well,
Maybe that's a challenge for some.
yeah, I forgot about this. This should have been in the Star
we
Wars
get
news.
to 1,000 followers.
Our 1,000th
get enough followers. We'll get a B&B tattoo
Not a
on our
chance.
butt.
No, I forgot to say this in the Star Wars news, but tomorrow, Star Wars Celebration Anaheim tickets go on sale.
Ooh.
That's big.
Get your wallets ready.
That's big. Josh,
Anaheim.
you're going.
I'm going.
First time.
First time.
Guess what?
What?
I'm going.
First time?
First time.
Woo.
Trevor?
Oh my gosh! I feel like Andy gave me a call earlier today. That's not
You're
only
going.
that, but
Shut up, you're going.
Andy.
I answered Trevor. He's
hold
going.
on. Andy's wife gave my wife a call and said we're going. So I feel like this may happen. So yes,
you're going.
I
Were
may
you
be
peer
going.
pressured?
No,
It's
no,
as
it's
close
not
as
peer
it can.
pressure.
It's West Coast, man. We're West Coast.
No,
West
I
Side.
know.
West
There's
Side.
there's
We're
no
going.
question. I want to be there. I want to be there.
No, you can't. It's a once in a lifetime type of situation
Yeah.
when it comes
No,
to
it sounds
where
sounds
the
awesome.
moment is right now in Star Wars, especially that'll be post.
Yeah, good
Right.
point.
Episode 9.
But it'll also be pre.
point.
After episode 9 hits, they're going to be hyping the next segment of their
Yeah,
Cassian Andor series.
Yeah,
or
it's gonna-
Mandalorian will
new
be peak.
Mandalorian will be
actors,
in its
new characters,
it might be
new
just
everything.
rapping, but as
Yeah.
far as the viewership, but man,
The end
Right.
of Clone Wars.
it's going to be crazy.
There's a lot of new Star Wars content coming out. Just because the movie's ending doesn't mean things are slowing down by
I actually
any
think
means.
this is the beginning as far as ramping up. Disney's not going to take they just spent how many millions or billions? I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
No,
billions,
it's just
but
starting. There's so much
on
money
their
in this,
lands
and
between the two
Yeah.
parks.
Yeah.
No, it's
Okay.
still on.
So, get your wallets ready and
Yeah, pull out the credit cards.
get the mouse on your computer ready to click away a good portion of your savings. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know
Yeah.
I am. I
well, what
can't wait.
tickets are what $75 for a day? That's not terrible. But just
day?
getting there.
I-
It's just getting there.
Whew. All right.
We'll figure the
It'll be
details out
We'll
later.
figure
We'll
that. I'm
figure
going to
that
be
out.
leaving family members behind and meeting up with them later. Probably
Yeah.
being beers behind. and meeting up with them
maybe.
later.
Shut up! You're not leaving anybody behind.
No, I'll be
We're
there. I'll
going.
be holding it down. You're fine.
We're going.
All right, hit it.
Collector tip.
That's what we have.
All right, the collector tip today is a little sobering. It's thoughtful. It's
Insightful,
it's
introspective.
It's not necessarily a touchy-feely kind of collector tip where you're going to feel excited that I just shared this with you.
Oh, I see.
But
That's an interesting approach you had there, but
Tuesday I already posted this on Twitter, so I've spoiled myself in a way. But I just thought, because this will lead into, like, we always ask like each other, have we got anything lately, and we will. But I got something on Monday that it was a sobering reminder that you need to be mindful of the reasons why people are getting rid of their collections or just even some of their toys. It may not be a collection, but it's just something that they've had for a long time and whatever, because often, not always, but enough to where you should keep this in mind, is that people are sometimes reluctantly getting rid of them. And, hard times happen. People move, bills pop up out of nowhere sometimes, a medical bill or a car wreck or whatever. And then they're forced to prioritize something. And then all of a sudden, something that they've had for a very long time, and maybe since they were kids, so it's got some real strong sentimental ties to them, they have now prioritized that in order to keep moving forward, they need to sell or get rid of these items. And so it wouldn't have been their first choice to do, but they're getting rid of those connections to their past, those ties to, and one thing for us that we have made mention of many times is that one thing that's great about Star Wars is it's generational. This is something that, me and my cousins did when we were kids. We were into this stuff a long time ago. And my uncle really, even more so than my dad, was kind of turned me on to this. And then now I'm getting to do that with my son and my other kids. And because there's a familial tie to these things, it makes them that much more special.
sure.
And so when you got to get rid of something like that, not because you're choosing to, but because you kind of have to, like, be mindful of that. Don't, I understand you wanting to try and get the best deal for you, but also understand too, at least be respectful of the fact that you might be getting something for a deal because of somebody else's hardship. And so collections are personal. Be mindful of that. That's my tip.
That's a good one.
I mean, I know both of us, Trevor, Josh, and myself, we've bought things from people that have fallen on some tough times, and had that bill come up that they're not sure how they're going to pay. And, and that's maybe that's
even
just
to say, like, I don't want to get rid of this, but I need to. And part of that, you tell some really good stories, and I think you've done them on the pod, of correcting prices to your detriment. You know what I'm saying? Like saying like, hey,
that's actually worth a little bit more.
That's worth 150, and that's what I'm going to give you. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like, hey, I need to get rid of I got to unload this, so I'm going half price. I'm going $80. You know, like, well, it's worth 150, and I can't find it on eBay for less than 200. So we're both in the right here. We're both good, and I think that's a very, to be honest, I learned that from you because it is from the world we come from, especially if you're in eBay and you're trying to outbid somebody and you're also scouring to find the lowest priced something. I mean, that's a mentality you go in with.
Well, and truthfully, that part is fun. Like the hunt. Is fun. It's the hunt, and that's fun.
And maybe your point doesn't apply to that because you don't know who's on the other end of the mouse. But
right. And like on eBay, you don't actually see their faces and stuff like that and don't know the reasons. But
when you're doing that mutual trade locally, and I know you're more adept at that than I am. Like Andy, if you didn't know, Andy is a scourer. You're a scout. You're like Ray. You dive into a Star Destroyer and you find that little part up in the engine well, and you glide down and you get ripped off by some creepy alien on the desert.
Yeah, strengths and weaknesses. Sure.
So I love that. And as a matter of fact, in life, I feel that way. You buy from people you like, and you buy at a fair price. You sell to people you like, and you sell at a fair price. That's the way it is.
Whatever your thoughts are on karma, but my
thoughts are huge on karma. Karma's a force for us people. I just got to be honest with you. If you want me to go deep,
things do seem like they come around in whatever appropriate manner that you respond to. And 100%. So like if you're a jerk, it's going to come back to you, and someone's going to do that to you, and you're going to get ripped off. But if you're putting out, if you're kind, if you're fair, then it's reciprocated. However you are, it comes back to you tenfold sometimes.
And the galaxy turns.
And as the world turns.
Galaxy. I was trying to.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I was going
system.
I was going 80s
system. If you want to talk about one particular planet,
does everything rotate around?
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever.
Anyway, that's the collector tip. Josh, Trevor, you still there?
He's there.
Just quick check.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here. I'm listening.
Right, oh my gosh. He's just hanging on.
No, I'm riveted. I'm listening to all this stuff. I'm here.
What's just real quick, Josh, what's our time check?
Oh, we're good. Keep going.
Okay.
We got about 15.
I think I can do this in 15 minutes.
I'm sure you can.
I always say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I padded it with 10 minutes. No, you're fine.
What?
Keep going.
All right. I wanted to have a discussion about Luke. Twitter, Star Wars Twitter is really extreme when it comes to Luke. There's the Last Jedi was awesome. I've found that movie very compelling. I love that it was different than what maybe, there are those that are just
anyone expected.
Yeah. Yes. I mean,
any fan expected.
Yes. But then there are others that took it very personal that Luke wasn't acting like they thought he should, or it just didn't go the way they thought. Like I know the tag in the trailers was like, this isn't going to go the way you think it is. And it was like so true because it didn't, and there's extremes on both ends that seem to hate each other and love Star Wars at the same time, which is weird because it's all make believe. But
don't you dare say that.
But I wanted to talk about Luke and just skip go through. He will, by the end of this, by December, he will have been in 6 of the 9 movies, and I wanted to see okay, does he really act differently in episode 8 in The Last Jedi than what his character has been prior to? Did he really act out of character? Because that's what the people that hate The Last Jedi often say. Luke wasn't Luke. He's not my Luke. Hashtag not my Luke.
Right.
Whatever. But I just wanted to touch on some Luke highlights here. And I went...
So I will correct you, though. He's technically, if you include episode 9, will have been in 7 episodes. Because we saw him as a little baby in number 3.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
He's a
Foiled again by a technicality.
tiny little baby Luke.
Okay. In A New Hope, he wants to be a pilot. That's how he initially comes onto the scene. He's raised by Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru. He wants to be a pilot. He wants to get off the rock and go be a pilot like his buddies are, like his buddy Biggs. Skip ahead a little bit. Aunt and uncle are killed while he's introduced to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Basically hanging out with a hobo.
Yeah, he's just kind of hanging around in the distance for like 16 years or however old Luke is supposed to be. So upon that life-changing moment, he makes the decision, I want to be a Jedi. I'm going with you. Let's get out of here. Which they always say, like, you're not supposed to make life-changing decisions right after a tragedy. But Luke did.
It's the only way.
Yeah.
Like, you should do that.
Like, get a haircut.
It's a rebound
Do that.
situation for Luke, and we're good with that.
A rebound. I guess I hadn't thought of it like that before. Oh, he's rebounding with Obi-Wan. Okay. All right. So then he goes and rescues Princess Leia. He's courageous. He's
Short
for a stormtrooper.
Right.
Yeah. And fast forward, he blows up the Death Star. You know,
whatever.
And, you know,
all in a day's farm boy's work.
Yeah, it's like, you know, there's no way Rey could have all these abilities that fast. And it's like, well, Luke just hopped into an X-Wing and
He was bullseyeing womp rats.
In his T-16, right?
He clarified that very, very clearly.
Very clearly.
In the super secret meeting.
But it's like all of a sudden he shows up and now he's the dude, right? Which is awesome. But I'm totally in on that. And I'm totally in on Rey doing the same thing.
Sure.
Okay.
100%.
No qualm here. All right.
She practiced on a rock for quite some time.
He becomes a pilot for the rebellion and pretty well thought of after he blows up the Death Star, obviously.
Commander.
With a little help from Han Solo, of course. Yeehaw! Goes to Dagobah after the Hoth deal, you know.
Commander Luke.
Almost dies in the snowspeeder. But
he almost pulls a full DAC.
Almost.
I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep punching this up.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, that's good. You're not distracting me at all. I'm not losing my train of thought ever. Goes to Dagobah to train to become, you know, because he sees the vision of Obi-Wan at Hoth. You know, you must go to the Dagobah system, train with Yoda. He cuts off his training, you know, and this whole training thing, he's filled with doubt. This thing is all a bit overwhelming for him.
I don't think he was ever down with Yoda.
Yeah, Yoda.
He was annoyed with Yoda from the get.
From the get, yeah. And everything Yoda said was like, no way, you're asking crazy
Even when
things.
Yoda was like, I'm the Jedi Master you're looking for, he's just like, son of a God, what?
What, this little green
and then he's
goblin?
He's got him backpacked up. He's still bitching about it.
2 feet tall. Like,
I mean, how?
Yeah.
How?
So there's a lot of questions in his head. And then,
don't you know I was bullseye and wrong?
Yeah. So then he has the weird cave experience where, you know, you
cuts off his own head.
You only go in with what you take with you.
Right.
Okay. Well, what does he take in with him? He takes in his lightsaber, and as soon as he sees the vision of Darth Vader, clicks that thing on, cuts his head off, only to realize that he was inside.
Right.
So, like,
and a lot taller.
So there's doubt within Luke about Yoda and his training. There's doubt within Luke about himself and like, oh, really, the enemy's me. Like, the bad guy is in me, perhaps. I mean, that was just...
I think that's what the vision was saying, 100%. Is like, you could become your father. So if you take this path, are you becoming, you know, exactly what you're trying to fight?
Yeah, and the potential for Luke to succumb to the dark side is, you know, they don't actually... Yoda is like ticked off that Luke leaves early to go rescue Han and Leia.
There is another.
Yeah, well,
he's even got contingency plans. He's just like,
perhaps
I'm done with that kid.
But he's annoyed that Luke's leaving because he's not ready. He needs to finish his training, and not because like Vader could whip his butt with a lightsaber. But I think Yoda was afraid that he would fall to the dark side. He would join his father.
He's already witnessed
that. Was a real thing. He saw it with Anakin. Now Luke's going to befall the same fate. So there was this fear that Luke would, you know, fall to the dark side, but he takes off anyway. Again, he acts brashly, We always associate that with Han Solo, I feel like. But Luke acts like he doesn't follow the advice of his mentor or suggestion. Like he says, nope, I got to save him. My friends are important to me, and I'm going to do whatever I can, even if it costs me. Right. So then Yoda's like, well, you have no idea what this could cost you. So don't do it. Wait. And he's like, but my friends might die. Maybe, but just wait. But he doesn't. He takes off. He faces Vader and loses. Right. They have
brutally,
gets his hand cut off,
a hand,
and then he bails off of the tower in the middle of Bespin. Another great chasm. Yeah. Another example of a great chasm with very little railing.
Sure,
Josh.
No, it's terrible.
I know, it's very
unsafe. Only Vader had some solid railing between him. I mean, Vader knows what he's doing.
At this point, definitely more experienced. So he loses, finds out that Vader's his father, or at least is exposed to the idea that Vader's his father. That doesn't get confirmed until later on in Return of the Jedi. But then we go to Return of the Jedi. He goes to save Han. He saves Leia and Chewie and the droids. So he gets some of his friends back, picks up Lando along the way, and then he goes to finish saving Han. Like, that's his buddy. That's his friend. He goes back to save Han. And so that's how Return of the Jedi starts. He goes back to save Han, gets him at great peril to him and the other of his friends that they whipped up this plan that was really overly complicated if you sit and think about it.
Sure.
But he goes and saves. Then he goes back to finish his training. So he hasn't forgotten Yoda, goes back to finish his training, but Yoda dies. He says the only way to finish his training... Classic Yoda. The only way to finish his training is that he has to face Vader. And he feels bad for him that's the... because in old canon, to become a Jedi Master, you had to go through the trials. Well, there's no more Jedi. There's just about to be dead Yoda and up and coming hasn't finished his training Luke. And so his trial is Vader. Vader's his trial. And that's the only way he can complete his training. But he feels bad for him because he doesn't know if he can do it. He just found out that his trial means his father is the enemy, which is heavy. Right, for anybody,
sure,
real life or science fiction, that's heavy. When you find out your dad's actually the bad guy, which sadly happens, that's heavy. So then he gets to the Endor part of Return of the Jedi, and he turns himself over, like he gives himself up to Vader because
I'm endangering this mission. I shouldn't have come.
He feels conflict within Vader where no one else has. Yoda hadn't felt it. Obi-Wan hadn't felt it. People that actually knew Anakin before he was Vader, they did not feel conflict within Vader. Vader had turned to the dark side by all accounts until Luke. He feels the conflict within him. He says, you couldn't kill me then. You won't kill me now. And, Vader kind of says it's too late for me, son. So there's a little connection there. That, the fact that he calls him son instead of Luke, feels like he's tugging on a heartstring there.
Sure.
Okay, but
it's probably robotic, but a heartstring.
A robotic heartstring?
Yeah.
Very well could be. Yep. Synthetic anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe it's from a cadaver.
Probably.
Yeah.
From all accounts.
So then Palpatine, he brings him to Palpatine, and Palpatine tempts him. Like he's trying to egg him on, like, you want this, don't you? And he's kind of tickling the lightsaber a little bit.
Grossly.
And Luke holds off. He sees the battle going on outside.
His friends are in danger.
He's egging him on to get. Palpatine's not letting it go. And then Luke succumbs to action. But instead of going after Palpatine, he goes after Vader. Okay. Now, you might think, well, one guy's unarmed and sitting down, and the other guy is Darth freaking Vader. Why would you go okay, strike me down, you'll become more powerful.
Well, it's prison rules. You go after the biggest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And then you show everyone else.
Exactly.
You're no pushover.
So anyway, at the peak of the lightsaber battle with Vader, where he has Vader on the ropes, like literally on that wimpy little railing. He cuts off his hand and Vader is breathing heavily mechanically. He's got him beat. He turns, faces Palpatine, and tosses his saber and says, "You failed." He puts the saber down. Like he was never out to kill. He was never out to finish his training in the sense that Yoda had meant it, that you'd have to kill him. Like, no. He took his training and said, nope, I'm going to conquer a different route. Not through violence, but through faith in his father. And that faith could have killed him. It might not have been reciprocated by Vader. And there's always Palpatine who was ready to pounce on him and did. But that faith was ultimately the thing that broke the dam in Vader, at least in his heart and mind, whatever was real of him left, that, picks up Palpatine, throws him over the edge. And actually Luke's faith in his father that could have got him killed ends up saving Luke and saving Vader / Anakin.
Got it.
So that's where it ends. Tell your sister you were right. I want to see you with my own eyes. Anakin dies. Anakin doesn't reconcile himself to the galaxy, just his son. The only person Vader ever saved was Luke. Wasn't Padme, wasn't his mom, wasn't anybody, wasn't Obi-Wan, wasn't anybody that he actually loved and cared for and knew and had a relationship with. It was his son who just came on the scene, and that was enough. Luke sensed it, felt the turmoil, had faith in his father when no one else did, and that was enough. And we've already talked about redemption insofar as maybe if Ben could.
Right.
Right? So we don't need to dig that up again. But now Luke in The Force Awakens is non-existent. He's off the grid. All we know that he started a temple, a Jedi temple. There wasn't a lot, but there was, a handful of recruits, his nephew Ben being one of them. And if you want to go deep dive, maybe Rey was there too.
What?
I have new thoughts on my old theory.
Yeah.
For another time. But Ben has conflict within him, and Luke senses it.
He's got a conflict detector.
Yeah, he gets it. I mean, he's tuned into the Force, man.
Sure.
He's tuned in.
Well, I mean, specifically.
But all we know from The Force Awakens is that Ben burnt the place down, and Han Solo and Princess Leia's only son is now the main antagonist. He's the bad guy, right? There's Snoke, there's Hux, but Kylo's the compelling one, and he's also associated familially. Is that a word?
Sure.
I don't know.
I'm with you. Family-wise, to the old heroes, right? Han, Luke, and Leia. He's got a family connection to those. So then here comes the Last Jedi. So here's where we get to and I'm gonna ask you what you think here in just a moment, and hopefully Trevor hasn't fallen asleep. So he's fine. I'm seeing a steady snore signal from his.
Oh, you're getting
no, I'm
okay.
joking.
I'm here, jerks. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So we get to the Last Jedi, and Luke is afraid now. He's turned himself off from the Force. He is isolated himself in a place where nobody can find him. He's become afraid. Like he doesn't want to face the reality of losing the people at the temple, losing his nephew, who's also his best friend's son. Right? It doesn't seem like he wants to face that, or is facing it in a way where he thinks it's better if he just goes away.
Right.
So that there's a saying, isolation leads to desolation. So the more you isolate yourself, the more those bad thoughts get to linger around, because you're not healthily distracting yourself with other people and other interactions and things to do. You're just by yourself, thinking about yourself, and often that gets you to some dark places.
And I mean, what about that green milk? That could have been just messing with his head the whole time.
Who knows what the green in the green
psychedelic
milk
effects
I
alone,
mean,
especially the gathering process, that put me out of sorts.
that's a little bit scarring. Keith says the green milk isn't very good either.
Yeah, it's all bad.
Listen to the last pod.
It looked bad.
And so here's my crux here. Not hux, my crux.
Puns.
Luke sensed the conflict within Ben.
Okay.
And you could say it was a moment of weakness. You could say maybe by the end of episode 9, maybe he should have.
Yeah, at this point.
Maybe he should have killed him. But
we've lost Han.
So
Akbar, because of this a-hole.
Akbar's gone. No one's ever really gone, Josh.
Yeah, no one's ever really gone.
But my point here, I'm trying to get to my point. Luke,
are you?
Luke sensed the conflict in Vader and still had faith in him. And Vader was the baddest dude ever, right? He sensed the conflict in Ben.
And tried to kill his ass.
And didn't try, but had a you could call it a moment of weakness, whatever. But by the end of the movie, Han is dead. Leia has resigned herself to the fact that her son is gone. Luke has resigned himself to the fact that Ben is gone. Everybody has said, okay, you know what? We've lost our son. We've lost Ben. He's too far gone. Snoke has poisoned his mind. He has turned him to the dark side. And then at the very, very end, even Rey closes the door on him, figuratively and metaphorically. Everybody has written him off. Now, the only person that had faith in Vader was Luke. And that must have taken, or maybe he was just naive and I don't know, but he couldn't do that same thing with Ben, who is trying to imitate Vader. Like, he saw the conflict in both of them. One, he had the faith in. One, he resigned himself to the fact that he was gone. So for me, that tells me, since everybody has kind of washed their hands of him and given up the fact that he's a bad guy, that kind of tells me that Ben's going to be the bad guy in episode 9, and he's going to, he's the bad guy. He's not getting redeemed. Everybody has now put their palms up. Their palms up, and he's gone. Not even Luke could find the faith in him that he found in Vader when no one else had. What do you think, Josh? Was that too heavy?
All right. First, I want to say I appreciate the view on Luke. As a matter of fact, the way you told the story of Luke briefly through his experience actually gives him more character than we maybe got out of it. I like viewing him that way. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I liked viewing him from that perspective. Because as a kid, as someone who enjoyed the action part of the shows, you see Luke as the Jedi Knight and the upcoming, you put yourself in his shoes and you could do that. So I liked seeing him as somebody that has to make these decisions. And especially when it comes to Vader, throwing the lightsaber down in front of the Emperor and saying you failed. That's a great perspective.
Right. He threw the lightsaber down, but for Ben, he picked it up.
Right. But we've used the term infallible before,
right?
Which comes, with Yoda. I mean, it's not to say that Luke is right. It's to say that it could be, and even by his actions, meaning he goes and he hides away, it could be that he's tired. So now that we're here with Ben and he's experiencing the same cycle again, he might just say, and if any of you have family, you might just say, how many times do I have to do this to make it right? And he might have just made the wrong choice with Ben. Now, that being said, what you just said with the hands thrown up and you even physically put your palms up, that's a perfect scenario. It's a perfect setup for a redemption. I apologize.
Okay.
Sorry. That's the perfect setup.
You are definitely not alone. And I'm glad we actually kind of disagree on this because usually we agree on stuff.
Sure.
And that doesn't make always good for good content, but go ahead. Feel that way.
That's not a bad setup for redemption. It also draws
when all is lost.
When all is lost, especially if the per your description, the person who had the most faith in the worst person in the galaxy at the time we witnessed it decides that with this next person, they're washing their hands. That's almost a more profound setup for a redemption. We never got redemption for Vader. We got redemption for Vader, like per your words too, which are accurate, with Luke and Vader in the hangar. That's it. Only Luke and Vader knew, not the galaxy, that they had solved this in whatever small way. And the bonfire on Endor had put it up in smoke, and the Force Ghost had solidified that Anakin, at least at whatever degree, and
to Luke, yeah, just to Luke. Kylo,
Ben could be the galactic redemption we were looking for, which takes the line all the way back to Vader and beyond, and really might support the rise of Skywalker, meaning it should even be, and I bet you might hear this, the redemption of Skywalker. Think about that, because the redemption of Skywalker would tie all the way back to Anakin. And the redemption of Skywalker would be that through Ben, through the darkness that has run through this lineage and been combated by its own family, that something came out of it. And whether Luke gave his all, he gave it all, and he disappeared, and he joined the Force because of it. That at some point, when Rey, perhaps of the same lineage, when Rey rises above the Skywalker lineage, really, I mean, she rises above it, and whether she's a Skywalker or not, and I won't throw that out there too heavily because I don't know. I can't wait to see. I don't care if she is or she isn't. But I do know that if she redeems the Skywalker and the Skywalkers in that form, meaning she pulls Ben back from what has already happened before. So Ben's boring if he becomes Vader. I'm just saying that out loud. Ben's boring if he becomes just as... Look, they're making comics and all these stories about Vader being the baddest dude in the world, in the galaxy.
Yep.
So what is it? Why does Ben have to be that way? Why does Kylo have to repeat that? Are we getting more? Or can't we just say, hey, we got that out of Vader?
Well, I would pause on that only because, okay, if he's the bad guy, then he's imitating Vader. But if he ends up being the good guy, then now he's Luke or Han. So he's going to...
He's not Luke or Han.
He's going to be a hero or he's going to be a villain. Like,
yeah, but that's... balance. Feel it. That's where we're at. We'll go back again. Balance is what I think the underlying theme must be. He doesn't have to be a bad guy, but he also doesn't have to be a good guy, which actually is a better description of Han. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, which is his father, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you see that?
I must have missed that.
Yeah. Tell you what, spoiler alert. To take, and I'm only inspired by your story. So don't think because this is the first I've heard it too. We don't get around and talk about your thoughts and then pod about it after I've come up with my own responses. But I think that it's okay for the redemption of Skywalker to happen. Now, if that means that Ben falls for it,
like Anakin, then so be it, and so be JJ to do that. But if it also means that he falls in a better way, meaning he doesn't just throw the Emperor over the railing. Thank God they had railings in the Death Star, because the Emperor's like, I will not walk around with this
no
little
railing.
Tiny wimpy thing.
Yeah, no, it's still good. It was still a good toss. It could mean that Kylo is redeemed, or redeems himself, or redeems his lineage, and carries on. But where does that leave Rey? I mean, if you really...
So he becomes like Holdo then.
Terrible comparison. No, it just means that the possibilities there, I think, per your description of where does Kylo go, he can't just replicate Vader's demise. He can't just be his grandfather again, and especially after Luke gave up on him
and do a heroic thing to save something.
I think that's going to happen anyway, but it would be far better if after that heroic thing, he redeemed himself to the galaxy. Okay. And by that, I mean lots of road cleanup. Okay. All right. Lots of community services got to go on here.
Lots
Kylo.
of community service.
Lots
of fine.
Lots of meteor asteroid belt, cleanup. So
in order for this to not totally mirror, like JJ has shown he can do in The Force Awakens. Like, I think the sacrifice might have to come from Rey.
Ouch. And I think that's a very good twist, meaning that the redemption of Skywalker comes from the realization of the loss of one
that's innocent,
and the one that stays. It's not the hero
it's not the
hero we need. It's the hero we deserve.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, thanks, DC. Trevor.
Does Kylo get redeemed?
Good Lord. Yeah. Yep. He does.
All right.
I'm going to say yes.
All right. I think that's a great place to end, Josh.
I do too.
Yes.
Hey, look, I want to thank Trevor. Thanks for joining us again. And obviously everyone out there listening. SummerCon was amazing. Go to a con when you can. You heard the joy in Trevor and mine's explanation of that experience. Go do it. It's worth every penny. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to dress up. You can wear a normal t-shirt. No one will make fun of you. But thank you. Thanks, Trev. And hey, follow us at Holochronicles on YouTube, on Twitter and other places. And you can listen to us if you're not listening already on iTunes and other Google Podcasts and other places, all the places.
Don't be afraid to like, subscribe,
tell your friends about us.
Yeah, share.
Yeah, we really like the shares, the retweets, and the forwards. We need more people like you
interacting with us,
because we're down.
Yeah, we'll talk, we'll chat. Tell us if you think anything that we said today was good or a load of crap. We would love to hear your thoughts. So for Josh, Trevor, and myself, this is the Holochronicles podcast. Thanks for the listen.